Hey, welcome back to Everything Homestead. My name's Terry. Today I'm going to talk about what the interaction I had with my neighbor to the south of me. He just purchased the property. He happens to be an Amishman, and he was told on the survey that they took of his property that the property lines are off, and that he wanted to ask me if I would be willing to move the property lines back to where the survey shows the property line should be. And when I bought this land probably 28 years ago or so, and when I bought this land, I had surveyed, and the person that did the survey didn't make any mention of the property lines being off. So for all this time, all these years, I look at this chunk of land and I just assume it's mine. And then so I'm carrying on with that assumption, and it is mine. I took care of the fences along that section. I live out in the country. When you have fences that divide your property lines, you have to maintain these fences, and that's your responsibility of a landowner. And if a tree falls on it, you got to cut the tree up, fix the fence. And been maintaining the weeds and stuff around it, and that's always been my land. Well, the surveyor told this Amishman that along this stretch, it's almost 4 acres, was technically the Amishman's land. And so anyway, that brought the guy over here, and he wanted to ask me to give it back. And long story short, I'll explain why. I said nope. So at first, you might think, well, that's just a mean thing to do. You need to do the right thing. Well, I feel like I did do the right thing. So let me explain. I did some research online, and I found out in the state of Wisconsin, which is where I'm at, this sort of issue has come up a few times before. It's been taken to court, and the courts have decided. And so there is legal precedence on this situation. And they stated in the court cases that if the property line has been in place for multiple decades, that's the way it should stay. And that's how I'm going to. I'm going to leave it like that. Now, the property line in question here has been in place for almost 150 years. And the original people that surveyed out this land, they just used line of sight. They just had one guy stand in one spot, another guy stand in another spot. They kind of tape measured, and they did the best they could with what they had. They don't have the satellites working with them like they do nowadays to figure it out. I mean, they can get it down to the millimeter as to where the property line is now. So he comes up to me and he says, well, I bought this land, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to have the fences reset to where it should be. And I said, I'm not interested in changing it at all. And I explained the recent precedents with the court system and all that. And he said, well, I'm paying taxes on the land that you're using. And I then reminded him that the survey and all that stuff is something that's done before the sale of when you bought the property. I said, you should have discussed this and ironed out the details before you purchased the property. He said, yeah, well, I didn't realize. And I'm like, well, I didn't tell him this, but I call it the stupid tax. It's just the tax you got to pay if you're stupid. And I'm not saying he's stupid. It's just he made a mistake and didn't do things in the right order. And now he realizes that I have 4 acres that's basically mine. Well, I've always considered it mine, because when I purchased a place, I'm just assuming it was mine. So it just so happens that he came up to me and asked me that question about the fence line while I was working on a fence line. I'm replacing this fence line here that I'm kind of leaning on one of the posts, and it's barbed wire, or it was barbed wire. I'm just about done taking it apart. I'm going to replace it and put some sheep fence up. And because I'm going to set this up as grazing for the sheep out here, hopefully by the end of the summer. I was polite as I could be, but I was kind of standing my ground because I don't want to lose that bit of property, because I deer hunt out there, I trap out there, and I've always taken my truck out there and drove in that area. I don't want to lose it. And actually, and I didn't bring this up with him because I didn't want to offend him, but it was pointed out to me by my mother, which I don't know how she knew this, but it's actually in the Bible about this very topic. It's in Proverbs, and I believe it's in chapter 22 and in chapter 24. I think both. Don't quote me on that. I'm really close anyway. It says in there that you should not attempt to move another man's property line. And I thought maybe being an Amish, and that's what they're all about, is Christianity, and I thought maybe they'd be aware of that, but I guess there's a lot of things in the Bible that we all don't know everything about, so I wasn't going to embarrass him and all that, but if he was going to push me on it, I was going to bring that up. And so, long story short, it's one of those odd things that happens when you're a landowner that you don't really plan on dealing with. You know, when you live someplace for 20, 30 years, you don't think this is ever going to come up, but it just did for me. A little bit off guard with it. I kind of knew the property line was off a bit, but it turns out, and it was off by like 75 feet. So it was a significant chunk, but like I said, it's been there for well over 100 years, and I'm not going to change it. There's trees along that fence line. They're about 80 feet tall. I mean, they've been there a long time. And so, anyhow, I'm going to cut this video short right now and get back to working on this fence. Please like and subscribe. Thank you to all the subscribers that have been subscribing to my channel. I appreciate it very much. And I'll talk to you later. Thanks.